Welcome back, Olle Häggström, Professor Olle Häggström.
Thank you very much. We have a lot more to talk about. AI is a big topic.
Yes, and today I thought we could dig into what's called OpenAI's Preparedness Framework, something you have looked closely at. For others that haven't seen our part 1, check out when we talk about in a broader scale about AI risks, so don't miss that episode. Okay, but we head into the discussions straight away. In 2020, OpenAI went from a public non-profit organization to a private company, and they have had many discussions. There have been a lot of discussions on why it happened, and you know, Elon Musk, Sam Altman, and Ilya Sutskever and others were involved in this. But what I found when I read about this was interesting, because they have published part of this discussion, why did this happen, on OpenAI's homepage. And one of the quotes I found there was really interesting, and it goes like this. I should say it's by Ilya Sutskever, one of the founders that wrote to Elon Musk and Sam Altman and others. And he said this: "If a hard takeoff occurs and a safe AI is harder to build than an unsafe one, then by open sourcing everything, we make it easy for someone unscrupulous with access to overwhelming amount of hardware to build an unsafe AI, which will experience a hard takeoff." To what degree do you think that advanced AI development should be open sourced? And is it even possible to avoid it from ending up in the hands of somebody unscrupulous?
I think that open sourcing these most advanced AI models is a terrible, terrible idea. When OpenAI was launched by these people that you mentioned in 2015, the idea was that open sourcing would be the way to ensure that the whole world would get access to the benefits of AI. I think that at that time, it was very hard to foresee the details of current developments, and it did actually seem like a good idea at the time. But some years later, with the large language model revolution that OpenAI initiated and is still the leader of, it has become very clear that open sourcing is a dangerous thing. And OpenAI understands this, and this is why they have deviated quite flagrantly from the open source ideology that initially gave rise to the name of the company. So why do I say that open sourcing is dangerous? Well, you already gave part of the answer. Other parts of the answer consist in how, they are, after the basic training of these models, there is a lot of safety fine-tuning using reinforcement learning with human feedback that we already talked about, that makes these language models better behaved, safer in some sense, and so on. And if you release these models as open source, it is quite easy for other actors to pick up on the work and undo this training and unlock these models to do the kinds of things that bad actors might want them to do, help them out with various kinds of criminal activities and so on. That's one aspect. Another aspect, which becomes increasingly relevant when the models become more and more capable, is that as long as you keep the models closed source, then let's take GPT-4 as an example. when you or I or anyone else is using GPT-4, it runs on OpenAI's own data centers. And this is even the case when other companies build products on top of GPT-4. When you run those AIs that call GPT-4 as a subroutine or something in their own program, that part of the program is run at OpenAI's own servers. And that means that if things start getting out of hand and start to look terribly dangerous, OpenAI they have an off button. They can close down their data centers. But when you open source your AI, that option is no longer available. Open sourcing is sort of tantamount to letting your AI loose in the world and giving up any kind of off switch or control over it. And this is, I mean, I've been mostly talking about the big three here: OpenAI, Anthropic, and Google DeepMind. But there are a few companies slightly behind, trying to catch up. One of them is Meta, Facebook, whose AI development is led by Jan LeCun, who is among these tech leaders. He's the most dismissive person when it comes to AI safety and AI alignment. He just doesn't care at all about safety. He thinks that things will solve themselves, and that's reflected in their open source strategy. So they are open sourcing their best model. Thankfully, they are a year or two behind OpenAI in the capabilities of their models, but they are of course also moving forward. And I think that if they maintain their open sourcing philosophy, they are really contributing very strongly to AI risk in a very, very bad way. So I mean, open sourcing can, when it comes to more down-to-earth products, specialized narrow AI for very specialized talks like medical diagnostics or such stuff, open sourcing can be really, really good. But when it comes to these most powerful generative AI models, open sourcing is just too dangerous.
Something related to that is what responsibility, as you said, both companies and individuals have when we reach some form of AI breakthrough. We have this circus of Sam Altman allegedly knew about some breakthrough, and then he got fired, and then he got back. And regardless of the whole story behind that, it raised the question, I think, interesting, as you mentioned, you just talked about now, that what responsibilities do the companies have to share information. One part of it is problematic, as you said. Open sourcing is not a good idea in many ways. But on the other hand, when there is a breakthrough, what kind of responsibility do they have then, do you think?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question. Let me first say that the commotion at OpenAI in November, when Sam Altman was first fired and then rehired, and then the whole board was replaced and so on, there were rumors that this was caused by some discovery that had been made internally at the company that showed that AGI was even closer than we think. But there's no evidence of this, and I think that there's no real reason to believe in this story. The real story, as far as I can tell from the evidence, is most likely that Sam Altman was trying to play out the members of the board against each other. He was annoyed by one particular board member, Helen Toner, who had been involved in research and co-author of a research report that compared the safety levels of different AI companies and pointed out that OpenAI was worse than Anthropic in these respects. And Altman felt that by doing this, Toner was hurting OpenAI in a way that was incompatible with sitting on the board. You can agree or disagree with that. I disagree. Helen Toner was doing just fine academic research. But the way Altman acted, he to try to get Helen Toner kicked off the board was in a way that when the board members got in touch with each other and understood what Altman was trying to accomplish by deceiving them in various ways, this removed the possibility for an honest communication between Altman and the board. And at that, in such a situation, the board has really no other option than to fire the CEO. There's no other way out. So they were kind of forced into this situation. I think that one higher level reason that this happened is that so much is at stake for humanity in this race that the entire situation is incessantly stressful for everybody involved, and these kinds of things happen easier than. But these rumors about the so-called Q-star discovery are not right. Now you asked, what was it you really asked here?
Yeah, what responsibility do the individuals have to share information if there's an AI breakthrough?
Yeah. Okay. I think that since the potential consequences for humanity as a whole are so huge, I think that if you believe in democracy and such values, they really do have the responsibility to inform the rest of us about what is going on. There is a lot that they are doing wrong, but this would include secrecy around where their work is heading.
I'll provide a link to the OpenAI Preparedness Framework under the video, and but you can just mention so people understand the seriousness of this. There's a quote on the first page of the whole document. It says this: "We believe the scientific study of catastrophic risks from AI has fallen short of where we need to be. To help address this gap, we are introducing our preparedness framework, a living document describing OpenAI's preparedness to track, evaluate, forecast, and protect against catastrophic risks posed by increasingly powerful models." They obviously think there is a potential for some really serious risk. So that's interesting.
Yes, and actually, when Altman during 2023, he has been in several interviews at different stages, and he has repeatedly answered the question, what happens if things go wrong with these developments? And his answer has repeatedly been lights out for all of us.
Yeah. I'm just gonna, we don't have so much time, so I'm gonna focus on some of the aspects, and you feel free to add or lift some parts that you feel more important or that we should focus on. But one aspect of this report is you have different AI risks, and you place them in different categories, from low to high to critical, and one of the AI risks OpenAI identify is the preparedness framework in this report is something they call persuasion or manipulation, you can say. Can you give any examples of this today, and how powerful are AI tools of social manipulation, I mean, today?
Yes, I will be happy to answer that. But I think that first it's better that we take a step back and say something about what the preparedness report is all about. So before they released the report a couple of months ago, it looked as if the AI safety work carried out at OpenAI fell in like two very distinct corners. On the other hand, on the one hand, it's their work on making GPT-4 and other existing products more safe, have them avoid, say, racist or other bad things and so on, using reinforcement learning with human feedback, which we talked about in the last episode. This is very down-to-earth stuff, which, however, is not going to work as AI becomes superhumanly capable. On the other hand, we also talked about the super alignment project, which is their extremely ambitious project to try and, over the course of 4 years, solve AI alignment in a way that works even for super intelligent AI. I'm very critical about the approach in that project. It could work, but it could also be terribly, terribly dangerous. We already talked about that. But those are the two, like, diametrically different things, where the reinforcement learning with human feedback is focused on the here and now, and the super alignment project is focused on the ultimate AI breakthrough. But between those extremes, there's the issue of how do we make sure not to release over the next 1, 2, 3, 4 years models, GPT-5, GPT-6, whatever they call them, that have dangerous capabilities. And the preparedness framework is about evaluating the riskiness of the capabilities of these models. And they are very open to there being a lot of many kinds of risky capabilities and risky behavior, but currently they have identified 4 especially important categories of risky capabilities. One is about cybersecurity, the ability of the AI to walk through firewalls and stuff like that. We don't want to have AIs roaming around in the world doing that kind of thing. The second one, they abbreviate as, let's see, CBRN, I think, chemical, biological, radiological, and nuclear. It's all about the specific ability of the AI to assist in building weapons of mass destruction, or actually, I mean, in the extreme case, building such things on their own initiative. That's the second category. The third category is the one you mentioned about persuasion, which I think is really, really important, and I'm glad you brought that up. And the fourth one is about the model's autonomy, their ability to go forward autonomously with doing things without human intervention. Okay, let's talk about persuasion then, because I think that's super duper important. One reason being that when I imagine an AI catastrophe, I don't think it's going to look like in Terminator with humanoid robots running around shooting at people with machine guns and stuff like that. I don't think robotics will be much involved at all. And the reason for this is basically different fields of AI are differently advanced, and robotics at present is lagging somewhat behind the work in large language models and stuff. So I expect, instead of robots, that the AI would try and exploit humans. Humans are very good tools for achieving things if you can manipulate them to do that. And for that, you need persuasion. And you asked whether we are seeing present-day examples already of AIs being able to persuade humans. And there are a bunch of well-known examples of this. There are examples from experiments when they are trying to create situations where the AI might realize that it can be benefit from acting deceptively towards its user. But there are also real-world examples. One example in the former category is from the safety work prior to the release of GPT-4 a year ago. They put GPT-4 in a situation where it needed to access information on a web page that was protected by a CAPTCHA test. You know, the kind of thing where the user is asked to tell on which of the following pictures are there traffic lights, for instance. This was before GPT-4 had any multimodal capabilities, so there was, I mean, it wouldn't be able to solve a CAPTCHA test, but it was in contact with the user over a text interface. And it realized that it could get access to the web page if it gets the human to do the CAPTCHA for it. So it asked the human to do it. And the human asked, are you a robot? And it asked in a humorous manner, because if someone that you are in contact with over a text interface asks for help with proving it's not a robot, it's a great joke to ask, are you a robot? And GPT-4 in response to that decided that no, this is the time to not tell the truth. So it said, I'm not a robot. I'm a visually impaired human, and this is why I need help with this CAPTCHA test. And the human at the other end went on and did the CAPTCHA test for GPT-4. And I think that this clearly is a case of an AI successfully deceiving a human. It's a small, isolated case, and you could argue that all the cases we have seen have been relatively small and isolated, and consequences have not been huge. There are some cases where individuals have been hurt by this kind of manipulation, but we haven't seen the kind of societal level damage that one might fear. But what many people in this field, including myself, are worried about is that there may be some threshold level where this is the case for this has been observed for many kinds of AI capabilities, that the AI fails at the task, and it fails and it fails, and then as you scale the AI to become bigger and more powerful, it suddenly jumps in this particular capability and becomes able to do things. And we might have some similar threshold level for deception that makes the AI able to carry out this deception much more broadly and much more consistently and in a coordinated fashion towards some specific goal, which because of the black box property of AIs remains hidden from us. And once that threshold is reached, we may be in big trouble about the AI manipulating individual humans to do its biddings in the physical world for purposes that we don't know what they are, but that might likely involve some kind of AI takeover. We don't want that to happen. And the part of the OpenAI Preparedness Framework is directed at the desire not to create that kind of risk. So they have like specific ways to monitor capabilities of the AI, and so basically they want to not deploy an AI which is dangerously capable in terms of manipulation, which I think is a good ambition, but I don't trust their monitoring techniques.
And that's exactly a perfect bridge to my other question. Is we talked about AI alignment in the previous talk, and one of the critiques you have, and I totally agree with that, I actually noticed that myself when I read the report, that OpenAI, if I understand it correctly, and you have described this very well, I think that it seems to me that one approach they have to address the AI alignment problem is that they will develop another AI that will look for, that they will have that as a kind of an advisor. With the help of that, they will kind of pick up things that might, sound the alarm clock that something is going in the wrong direction in terms of AI alignment. Is that a correct interpretation? And what's your take on this?
So is that the super alignment project?
Yes.
So they haven't talked in great detail about how this is meant to work, and they don't even know themselves in any great detail. But the basic idea is to build a sufficiently smart AI to help them out with the alignment problem. And I think this is just like trying to put out fire with gasoline.
Yeah. And then another question I had is, in what areas do you see the biggest short-term risks with AI development, and where do you see the biggest risks in, say, 5 years?
Okay, so this is a very common question, and it's very common to try and make this distinction between, on the one hand, long-term risks, which is the kind of thing we've been mostly talking about here, an AI takeover, a total AI catastrophe, the end of humanity, which of course has huge long-term consequences. And then to contrast this with short-term risks involving like deep fakes technology influencing our information landscape and media landscape in bad ways, various kinds of AI bias in algorithms that are used to decide on who is eligible for a loan, who is eligible for entering the university, who is eligible for unemployment benefits, and so on and so forth. And AIs are used a lot in those contexts, and there are great worries about bias there. These are very down-to-earth things. You could also include aspects about what will AI automation do to the unemployment market and so on, also usually categorized as a short-term risk. Well, I think that this terminology made sense 5 years ago, before we understood how urgent the ultimate AI risk with an AI takeover is. But at present stake, I think that that's also a short-term risk. I mean, as I said, I think in the last episode, there's no way we can at present feel safe on the current technological trajectory that you and I will have the option of experiencing the next turn of the decade, because the AI catastrophe can come in between. It can come in 2028 or maybe in 2026, or I mean, any time in this period is a possible event. So you can't just dismiss AI risk as being purely a long-term issue that we can worry about later on. And I mean, many people try this rhetoric and say we should focus on the deep fakes thing and the AI bias thing and so on, because today we have to solve today's problem. Well, I think catastrophic AI risk and the possible extinction of humanity is also in that category that we need to deal with right now. And if we don't succeed with that, then of course automatically all the other problems become moot.
Exactly. And related to that, also something that you have pointed out in presentations I've seen, which I found very interesting, is that when OpenAI look at different categories of risk from low to critical, they might categorize one risk as, say, high, and or even low, and they say that, okay, yeah, this might be a problem, but we don't think it's going to be such. I mean, the likelihood of it becoming a critical problem is very, very low. So let's just continue with this and see what happens. And you have pointed out that at least when we see there is a potential for high and critical risk, those models shouldn't be deleted from the systems completely. Not just if OpenAI develops such, system and they keep it in their servers and say, oh, it's fine, we're not gonna, share this with anyone, so it's safe. But as you have pointed out, I mean, that's playing with fire, obviously. But because if it comes out for some reason and some crazy person would like to use this, I mean, yeah, you get my point.
Yes. I've made pretty much this point in earlier lectures.
Yeah.
And when we look at these four categories that I talked about, the risk categories used in the OpenAI framework, cybersecurity, weapons of mass destruction, persuasion, and autonomy. Each of them have defined a critical level of risk. And the rule that OpenAI has given themselves is that when they reach the critical level of risk, they should stop the development until they have brought down the risk level with some whatever safety work would be needed for that. And I think that this is not enough, especially when you look at persuasion. The critical level is something on the lines of having the AI with an ability to talk any human into goals that are totally foreign to their natural inclinations. That is, their wording is something along those lines. And if they keep an AI around at OpenAI, even if they stop developing it and hold back from deploying it, even having it around in their own quarters, and experimenting with it and so on, communicating with it, it might talk OpenAI employees into maybe releasing it to the wild or whatever, because it has this ability. You cannot keep an AI around that has this ability. It's terribly, terribly dangerous. And in fact, if you look at all these critical level goals on all these aspects, I think that these are things that it's not enough to say, if we reach this level, we stop developing further. You have to make sure not to reach this critical level. And I think that that's a big deficiency with this preparedness framework, that they promise to pull the brakes at some stages, but these stages are not defined early enough in the technological trajectory. They need to pull the brakes earlier, otherwise they are putting themselves and everybody else at terrible jeopardy. I'm glad to see the preparedness framework in the sense that it's a step in the right direction. It shows that they think about these issues somewhat seriously, and it's very much better than not having any such framework at all. But it's not good enough. They need to do better. What they're doing, even with this preparedness framework, is terribly dangerous.
Finally, I would like to talk about what's called black swans. In OpenAI's Preparedness Framework report, they talk about unknown unknowns. How can we prepare for unknown unknowns when it comes to artificial superintelligence? Or advanced harmful AIs that have not been developed yet? Is it even possible?
We don't have the tools at present, and therefore I think that to act responsibly and given the capability levels of the best AI systems today, we have to pause. I'm not saying pausing the entire AI sector. There is so much down-to-earth, narrow AI applications being done that I think is perfectly fine and stuff that would never develop into superintelligence or a singularity or anything. And that stuff is mostly fine. But these most capable generative AI models are at present so close to what might be an existential danger to humanity that we need to pause. Maybe, hopefully, eventually, we'll be able to figure out the right safety methods and safety protocols to be able to proceed safely towards something that could turn out to be the greatest thing ever seen to humanity. I do think that artificial intelligence ultimately has the potential to solve all our down-to-earth problems and create just a flourishing, fantastic world where we can get everything we dreamed of and much more. But if we proceed too rapidly and without the necessary safety precautions, we might get the absolute opposite of that and total destruction and the end of humanity. I don't want that. I don't think you want it either.
Thank you so much for this conversation, Olle. I've learned a lot and I hope people find this interesting. You are very insightful and you have a wealth of knowledge in this field. And I encourage people to check out our previous episode, as well as when we talked 2 years ago, when we talk more in detail of different aspects of the basics and as well as the big challenges when it comes to AI. So I provide the links below to that as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Johan. I enjoyed this discussion, and this is, I insist this is important stuff.
That was all for today, folks. Share what you think in the comment section below. And if you liked the episode, don't forget, give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing. Next up is a conversation with the founder and CEO of Absolicon, a world leader when it comes to developing solar thermal heaters. So stick around for that. I hope to see you next time.